It's the end of 2023 and I wanted to do something fun. Now Destiny 2 is primarily a video game about builds and making builds, but when you're not cranking 90s and applying drywall, every character is equipped with something called a gun. And as it turns out, Destiny 2 has a lot of very fun guns to use. So what I wanted to do today was to celebrate the hundreds of guns that are released and available to use in Destiny 2 with a little award ceremony. So yeah, I even wore a jacket and everything. Here's how it's gonna work. I've come up with 11 categories which aim to celebrate all sorts of weapons, not just the very best. Each category will have a legendary and an exotic winner, with the exception of a few highlighted categories. All weapons are eligible for selection, as balancing patches and reworks did alter the effectiveness of a lot of these beyond those released in 2023. The fundamental question I asked myself when I selected these awards for different weapons was this: over the course of the last year, which weapon suits this category the best? Through every up and down, through every balance patch, through every phase where things came in and out of contention, which weapon stuck out the most? You might agree with these picks, you might disagree with them, but one thing's for certain though, these are my picks. This whole thing is my opinion. I am not some authority here on this whole subject. I'm just the only one who is crazy enough to actually frickin' go ahead and make this. I wore a jacket and everything, I look ridiculous. So I invite you to share your picks down in the comments below. Let's be respectful and try and have a bit of fun, alright? Of course, no award show is complete without its sponsors, and like a certain other awards show, I'm going to engage you all using the creative use of celebrity. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is the vehicle combat game to end all vehicle combat games. There's over 2,000 incredibly detailed tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships that you can use for PvP battles that are wildly chaotic, unpredictable, and a barrel of good fun. There's over 100 years of vehicles on offer, from the 1920s to the present day. The physics and audio design are genuinely unique to each vehicle, giving you the same level of immersion that you get when you play Death Stranding after leg day. Also, the in-depth customization system allows you to place camouflages, historical markings, and so much more to really help make every vehicle your own. The best part? The game's free on PC, Xbox, PS5, Mac, and Linux. Download it now using the link in the description below and you'll get multiple premium vehicles, a premium account, an exclusive 3D decorator for your vehicles, and so much more. Now, if you've not played in 6 months, you can claim a large bonus pack to get you back up and running with the same link. Thank you again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to it. Our first award of the night is Best Seasonal Weapon. Now this is any new weapon that came bundled with the season. In terms of exotics, any new exotic that came with the season pass, as part of an exotic mission, or even part of a reprised raid or new dungeon are all eligible for this award as well. And the winner for Best Legendary Seasonal Weapon is the Eremite. For the simple fact of the matter that the Eremite was really the first high-impact fusion that's fully craftable with the new perk Controlled Burst. And this really kickstarted the whole idea of fusion rifles being used as part of a DPS rotation. Fusion rifles became really popular for their super recharge abilities, but thanks to Controlled Burst and the fact that Eremite was crafted, it was everywhere for day one teams for Crota's End. Now, being a high impact fusion, it isn't the easiest to use, but it is undoubtedly one of the best energy slot weapons right now in the game. And it came with the season. And our winner for the best seasonal exotic, this should be no surprise, it's Dragon's Breath. It's only been a few weeks and this weapon has become a major factor for optimal team DPS rotations and solo anything. It is shot to the top of the DPS charts, and even without the catalyst, its ease of use and general fun factor make this an absolute winner. But more than any of that, it does ridiculous damage. It's by far and away the best exotic we've had as part of a new season. Our next award is for the most underrated weapon. This is given to the weapons released in 2023 that never really got the love they deserved. Now, there are many reasons why weapons don't get the love they deserve. The winners in this category are absolutely worth your time and are worth looking into, even if they were written off by other people. Give them a try, because not only are they good in the right hands, they're actually really good in everyone's hands. And the winner for the most underrated legendary weapon is Abyss Defiant. This high-impact auto rifle from the Crota's End raid is just a ridiculously good time. From the sublime feel, to the melee build-friendly origin trait, to the near-perfect perk pool for both PvE and PvP, plus being craftable, Abyss Defiant really comfortably stands out as one of the best legendary weapons we've had all year. Heal Clip and Incandescent make this a wonderful all-rounder for all things PvE, but for PvP, any role with sword logic makes this weapon come alive in ways few weapons can. It is utterly brilliant. Now my pick for most underrated exotic is going to be controversial. I can already feel the salt coming up from the comment section. However, the winner for the most underrated exotic is Vexcalibur. As it turns out, blocking damage to get an overshield that gives you a 50% damage buff that you can then use to do boosted melee damage is no joke. Perpetual Loophole allows you to keep an overshield up as long as you melee kill with it, making this glaive a melee build's best friend. If you ever wanted to feel truly unkillable without a build, Vexcalibur delivers this experience in spades. And of course, with a build, it gets 10 times more silly. On a personal note, glaives are kind of fun. I was wrong about them. Our next award is for the best utility weapon. This award is for the weapons that aid a team, a build, or a DPS situation. They're there to either make your life easier in certain situations, or be the perfect Swiss Army knife that you need them to be. Now, there is some fierce competition here, but ultimately, my winner for the best legendary utility weapon of the year is Scatter Signal. There's very little this Strand rapid-fire fusion rifle can't do. With Slice and Controlled Burst, it's a solid DPS swap weapon and utility combo. Slice applies Sever to your targets after you use a class ability, significantly reducing their outgoing damage. Controlled Burst is Controlled Burst. With Chill Clip being nerfed, this should be amongst your top considerations for PvE now. In PvP, this gun can really do it all, depending on how proficient you are with fusion rifles. Perpetual Motion and Kickstarter are a now classic combination for most fusions, but don't sleep on the utility of Under-Over in PvP right now. Ever since Arc Titans got nerfed, Overshield Bubble Titans have popped up everywhere, and Under-Over does 20% more damage to those overshields. As for the exotic winner, again, really fierce competition here, but ultimately, my exotic utility weapon of the year has to go to Tractor Cannon. Tractor's always been around, but this year we've seen a significant uptick in usage thanks to the endgame content on offer. First with Ekthar in Ghost of the Deep, then with Crota's End, especially in Day 1, and then with both Rathiel and Locus in the Warlord's Ruin dungeon. Tractor has been a ridiculously good option for most players, most teams, and most strategies this year. But I do want to give a shout out to two specific exotics for this category. First, to Gjallarhorn for really making the rocket DPS meta come into its own. And I also want to give a shout out to Navigator. Specifically, the kind of solo strats you can see being enabled, especially in this clip, really shows just how valuable it can be. Moving on to Best New Perk. Now, it's not just new weapons we get, it's new perks as well, and this year has been chock-a-block with good ones. From Heal Clip to Enlighten Action to Keep Away to Sword Logic, and so much more. As Destiny 2 keeps getting more and more fantastical with its builds, weapons need to keep up and evolve, and a huge part of that experience are the perks. With all that being said, my best new perk of 2023 has to go to Controlled Burst. For the simple fact of the matter that it turned fusion rifles into meta DPS swap weapons for the first time in the game's history. Aside from the 1000 Voices meta, I genuinely cannot remember a time when fusion rifles were meta for DPS. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But aside from that, when it came to facing down bosses in any sort of difficult content, a Controlled Burst fusion throughout 2023 was the default pick that you had better run, lest you be judged and bullied by 16-year-olds on the internet with Twitter accounts. It's a wild world out there, let me tell you. I want to give an honorable mention to Envious Assassin for reducing magazine sizes big and small, we love to see it, and Target Lock for being the single most devastating thing I've faced in PvP for some time. There's no tell. There still isn't any tell. It just casually reduces the bullet requirement of most weapons by 1 or 2. Fantastic. Bring it on. Let's have more of that, please. Hey. The most innovative award goes to the weapon that isn't just like the other girls, but the girl that makes you rediscover your passion for life. We all know weapons are getting stale, and with some of the crazier builds out there, borderline optional. And it really takes something special these days to break through the formula of what we're used to and make us pay sharp attention to it. This is not an award for the best weapon, but for the most unique thing we've seen all year. And my winner for the most innovative legendary weapon of the year goes to Indebted Kindness. It's a rocket sidearm, a dinky looking thing that fires a truck with every shot, obliterating majors and being a very passable special ammo stand-in for the bigger stuff as well. It's perfectly adequate at what it does, and it's not going to upset the meta for now, but it is proof that guns can be fun. And in the future, we're going to see a few more variants of this, and I tell you something, I'm looking forward to it. Guns feeling fresh and different has been a very long time coming. As for the most innovative exotic, the winner goes to X-Diris. I get it. Look, it's not a great weapon. It's barely okay. But you get to cosplay as a boomer knight, a hive knight boomer. When you're just digging around and passing the time in Destiny 2, whip this out for a laugh or a grenade launcher bounty. Or better yet, get into a private lobby with some friends and use this on them. It will be the most deserved teabag that you will ever get to perform on anybody, because the weapon is just hilarious to use. The award for the biggest glow up is for the weapons that have the most rags to riches story of them all. Previously neglected or considered a meme, changes this year have either significantly upgraded their capabilities or reworked them to the point where they're now considered not just mainstream, but low-key meta. And our two winners today exemplify that more than any other weapons. The biggest glow up for a legendary weapon for 2023 goes to Apex Predator. Back in my day, during the Red War, this was the single biggest meme option you could use for anything in the game. Seriously, look at this pitiful perk pool. This was a raid reward from the hardest raid the franchise had ever seen at that point. And we got this? Fast forward to 2023 with the reprisal of this weapon, and my oh my. Craftable with the reconstruction and bait and switch, Apex had everyone farming Kali like their life depended on it. And since it came out, it's been a permanent fixture in everyone's loadouts for DPS. Magnificent glow up, and one of my personal favorites aesthetically as well. As for the exotic, there were a few very solid contenders, but ultimately, that hand cannon buff was just too good to ignore. The winner for the biggest exotic glow up of 2023 is Sunshot. I don't need to explain this. Just use this for 5 seconds and you will fall in love. When Solar 3.0 came out last year, Sunshot was always on the fringes of the conversation for solo primaries, especially for Ignition builds. Now, it's front and center, and the poster child for the fact that hand cannons are now genuinely good in PvE. Nothing really changed for it in PvP, it's a bit of a wildcard to face. But this gun will never not put a smile on my face. It's finally as good as it's always deserved to be. The best DPS award is a tricky one, because I don't want to give this simply to the number one weapon, because that would be Syntheseps. No, I want to give this to the most reliable and consistent performer for most players. What's been the weapon that works the best for most people most of the time? Pick these weapons up and you will find success, pretty much guaranteed. My winner for the best legendary DPS weapon in the game is Apex Predator. Back-to-back wins here, and this one should be no surprise. To this day, one Gjallarhorn and a fire team of bait and switch Apexes remain one of the safest and most consistent boss DPS options for players of all skill levels. It's all situation and encounter dependent of course, but there's no doubting that it's one of the best in-slot rockets for 99% of situations, especially as part of a swap rotation with the recently buffed Izanagi's Burden. As for our exotic winner, this might surprise you, but it also probably won't, because despite only coming out this season, it's left a hell of an impression. The winner for the best exotic DPS weapon of 2023 is Dragon's Breath. Because it's so ridiculously strong and it has trounced every other exotic in the game for pure DPS. The only one that really comes close for this award is Tractor or Divinity, which are both really utility options. Izanagi's Burden is also a contender, but that does require some learning. Dragon's Breath really doesn't. It's a solar anarchy that reloads itself and does huge damage. It doesn't play nice with other dragons, but that's okay. We come to our first heavy hitter of the night, the best PvE weapons in the game. Now there's a lot to consider when it comes to a PvE weapon. What makes a good PvE weapon? Is it build synergy? Is it performance? Is it flexibility in what sort of loadouts you can run with it? But really, when it comes to an awards show about the best weapons, I wanted to focus on pure performance. As in, you pick these up and no questions asked, you can start slaying out with them. These weapons make using weapons fun, and they're a timely reminder that this is what this game was built on. And they're pretty good at clearing rooms too, but you know, killing lots of enemies is really fun. And so with that in mind, my pick for the best legendary PvE weapon is Forbearance. Look, this is not a new thing, and this is quite a boring and safe and uncontroversial pick for most, but ambitious assassin and chain reaction makes this weapon just so good everywhere. And I'll be honest with you, I enjoy the more dynamic options in PvE. I like using Xiaoli's Bane or the Icolos SMG, but when you use Forbearance, it always manages to slap you across the face to remind you of the fact that when it comes to ad clear, this is far closer to being an exotic in performance than most other legendaries ever would be. Forbearance is many things. It's old, it's boring, it's played out, it's stale, it's predictable. But what is also unrefutably the absolute truth about it is that it's peak. And you would be hard pressed to find an alternative when it comes to pure ad clear. And my winner for the best exotic PvE weapon is, to probably nobody's surprise, Sunshot. Once again, the hand cannon buff finally gave this weapon the performance it deserves. Phenomenal build synergy, ridiculous ignitions that can clear most rooms, and, most importantly, a remarkable ability to put a huge smile on your face. Few guns are as good as Sunshot in full flow, and fewer still are as fun. This is very comfortably my personal PvE gun of the year. There are so many things about weapons that you could dissect for PvP, because as we've said on this channel, PvP is the only place where weapons still truly matter. Like, we're talking about the range, the handling, the stability, the reload speed, the aim assistance, the recoil direction. All of these are vital when you're considering your options and your playstyle. Ultimately though, the few that really shine rise to the top. And my word, do they leave a huge impression when they get there. And no other legendary weapon left as big of an impression this year as my pick for the best PvP legendary weapon of 2023, the Immortal. Good God, what a scourge. This Trials of Osiris weapon shipped well out of band compared to other aggressive SMGs, with not only an adept version to further boost its stats, but also with the new perk Target Lock. Not having one of these puts you at such a disadvantage, the likes of which I haven't really seen since the heydays of Luna's Hell and Not Forgotten. This gun was so strong, they had to nerf it 3 separate times. Although, admittedly, 2 of those nerfs were because they didn't go far enough. And even though it's not in fashion anymore, it's still a very strong option. Ridiculous weapon over the course of 2023, and wholly deserving of its title as the best PvP legendary weapon of the year. As for our exotic, this one, I'm going to put my hands up. This is a real toss-up. There was no clear winner here because I am sure you have your favorite, and it is probably well-deserved. But for me, for what I used, from what I saw, and what I just found to be the most effective for me, my pick for the best exotic PvP weapon of the year is our raid exotic. It's Conditional Finality. Conditional had no right to be as good as it ended up being. A strong, but not too strong option, what Conditional has been more than any other shotgun is consistent and versatile. Its custom-tuned pellet spreads work remarkably well in PvP, and its ability to double act as a freeze, then ignition combo adds a bonus fun factor and utility to the weapon, capable of taking down supers and just about anything else that comes close. For its stats, for its range, for its handling, for the whole package, Conditional Finality is the shotgun to have and is a common loadout choice for trials, competitive, and all-white hunters. For honorable mentions, I have to mention Cloud Strike as well, just for being so utterly destructive in my trial sessions all throughout the year, even after its nerf. The penultimate award for this video is given to the weapons which are impossible to justify for any activity. There's no conceivable reason why you would ever rock these options, aside from superficial preference reasons, or, in other words, the big funny. And even then, it's a pretty hard sell. In the spirit of the holidays, I want to give you some free advice. If you main either of these weapons, seek God. Or better yet, stop by the Twitch stream so we can work through your litany of issues in front of a live studio audience. I just know you like pineapple and pizza as well. The winner, it's not really something you want to win. Anyways, the winner of the worst legendary weapon of 2023 goes to Crowning Duologue. Believe it or not, there was some hype for this weapon when it launched with Solstice because it was Strand. It was the first Strand rocket launcher, but a quick inspection of the perks and frame quickly dissipated all hope anyone had of it being good. Precision frame rockets are objectively the worst frame of the bunch, and a confusing perk pool left much to be desired. That this was marketed as a big deal for Solstice, only to have one of the most disappointing all-round packages, was shocking, to say the least. As for our exotic, this is going to seem pretty harsh because I think it's overall a pretty cool weapon. However, since getting it from Lightfall, I've used it a grand total of 0 times, and I'm willing to bet good money that you have as well. The winner for Worst Exotic of the Year is Deterministic Chaos. It's not a bad weapon by any means. I told you this is going to be harsh. It's just very gimmicky and flashy. Every 4th shot being a projectile that weakens enemies? I mean, sure, but you kind of get similar results from a legendary with destabilizing rounds. Why is this worth the exotic slot? It looks cool and it sounds great. But as far as utility goes, I'm hard pressed to figure out why this exists. I think, honestly, there's enough levers here for the weapons team to pull to make this hit much harder and be an overall good exotic in the future, but right now it isn't. And that makes it a hard pass for me. Shout out as well to X Diris, which was narrowly saved from this award by the fact that it's legitimately kind of fun and all round hilarious. And finally, the award you've all been waiting for. This is the award for the best weapon of 2023. My standards for this one are pretty high. It must perform well. It must be versatile. It must have been in the conversation for best in slot. It must still, to this day, provide value for players of all skill levels. And in the spirit of the game and how people are playing this game and the sandbox that we have, it must also be very good for build synergy. And if it's not, then it must be a good DPS option. And it has to do a job in PvP as well. Like I said, high standards. And when you consider all of that, it's clear that the weapon of the year has to be a genuine all-rounder. Not the best at one thing, but an old reliable that will always give you value if you seek it. And there's only one clear winner here. My pick for the best weapon of the year in Destiny 2 for 2023 is Quicksilver Storm. Because what can it not do? Seriously, this rapid-fire strand auto brings out the best in your builds, has serious ad-clear potential, and has the ability to surprise in PvP in a big way. It's incredible to use on both mouse and keyboard and controller. Its nanotracer rockets are more useful than you think, and a highly underappreciated aspect of this gun. And the alternate fire mode? A grenade launcher with huge ad-clear potential? Sold. For me, this gun has been the equivalent of all-season tires. It's been in GMs, it's been there for day 1 Crota, it has been the wildcard in trials, and it's pure Viagra for my banner of war. There are better ad-clear weapons, there are better PvP weapons, there are better weapons for build synergy, and if we're being completely honest, there are more worthy options of that exotic slot than this gun. But there isn't a gun that's a solid 8, maybe 9 out of 10 in all categories. And that's why Quicksilver Storm is my weapon of the year. The only other weapon I considered for weapon of the year was Conditional Finality, because it also can do everything. Between the two of them, it was pretty hard to decide, but I think they both would have been worthy winners of the Weapon of the Year award. And that's it. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video right to the very end, and thank you for watching me this year, even if this is your first video that you've watched of me this year. It has been a pleasure to entertain you all, and all I really ask in return is that you tune into the live streams over on Twitch, link down below, where we're going to resume sometime in the 2nd week of the new year. For more exact dates and news and updates with respect to that, join the Discord community down below. That's our community hub. It's a great time, I promise. Oh, and also whilst you're on the way down there, be sure to check out the link in the description below to download War Thunder with those awesome bonuses. And finally, thank you to the patrons. Without them, none of this would have been possible. My name is Ascendant Nomad, and I'll see you next year. Cheers.